Shabbat Shalom. And yes, I'm from my home instead of House of David today. A couple of thoughts here quickly. One is that we have a special guest with us today at House of David, Mike Clayton. Mike and I go back a long number of years, and uh, he is in town to offer some very important teaching to our congregation at an off campus location. So while you are viewing this video, if you're indeed viewing it on Shabbat, Mike will be presenting the tabernacle teaching that he does and a walk-through symbolic experience at the end. The facility that we will be located at does not give itself favorably to video recording or audio capture. We will be in a gym, and the lighting is not great. It's too large a room to effectively catch the audio in a pleasing manner. So I wanted to meet with you uniquely for this Shabbat here from my office and to share with you from the Torah portion, Vayetze, which is the Torah portion for this week. Last week, we were not streaming due to the Thanksgiving holiday. We typically do not gather on Shabbat following Thanksgiving, as many people are out of town and traveling. And that indeed was the case for Laura and myself. So, all of that being said, let me direct your attention to Bereshit, Genesis chapter number 29. And in chapter 29, we are at the point of this storyline where Yaakov has already been to what I believe to be the Temple Mount, Bethel, had this vision of the stairway going from the earth into the heavens, seen an exchange of messenger guard. If you want to say angelic guard, it's okay, I guess. And then he has lifted his feet, in 29 verse 1, and he's come to the area of Haran, where his mother Rivkah was raised and brought out from. It's interesting to me that Rivkah was sent for and brought out, whereas now Yaakov has to go into Haran, where his father was not allowed to go. There's something unique about Yaakov that enables him to go into this area and come out not necessarily unscathed, and we're going to talk about that, but rather refined. So let's start there. Verse number 1, Yaakov lifted up his feet and came to the land of the sons of the east, and he looked and saw a well in the field and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. Now, Yeshua the well, he is also the stone of covering. And it is when you lift up Yeshua, the stone, and when you lift him up, then the well is accessible. The water of life is accessible. Pretty easy picture there. It's also another instance where as Rachel comes bringing her father's sheep to the well, that the bride is again found at the well, as was Rivkah, as is the woman in John or Yochanan chapter number 4, as is Moshe's wife, Zipporah. Over and again, we see the bride is typified as being found at the well. Now, let's get into where it is that we want to focus today, and that is beginning with chapter 29 and verse number 10. Actually, we need to drop down here a little bit. Let's go down to verse 13. And it came to be when Laban heard the report about Yaakov, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, "You are indeed my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him for a new moon, that is, until the new moon, or perhaps as long as 29 or 30 days. Then Laban said to Yaakov, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know what should your wages be. Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And Yaakov loved Rachel. He fell in love with her in 30 days' time. So he said, let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Yaakov served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but for a few days for the love that he had for her. Now, it could be argued that this is too close a bloodline. These are first cousins, and I can't explain all of that. I don't know why that would be permitted. It's not genetically a good thing to do. So nonetheless, it happened. When we look at the cast of characters that have just been introduced to us, let's be reminded that Laban is Yaakov's uncle. He is the brother of his mother, Rebekah. He is the one that when the servant of Abraham showed up a generation earlier, looking for a bride for Yitzhak, instead of Bethuel, the father, doing the negotiating, it was Laban. He is an assertive individual. He is a commanding presence. It could be said that he is crafty, that he is controlling. And obviously, I see very easily that Yaakov is intimidated by him. Laban means white, and white typically is a suggestion of righteousness. But here, righteousness is not necessarily the right application. And so he may represent then those who claim to be righteous or have a name for being righteous, but they're not. They're controlling. They are crafty. They are intimidating. One might say that one application of that is the religious leader. I'll leave it in those terms. But I have had the personal experience of pastors who were Lavanites. They were controlling. They were intimidating. They were very assertive. You are here for my agenda alone. And I will tell you what Yah says. You must count on me to be his voice to you. So that seems to be Laban. Now, Yaakov himself has a reputation for also being crafty. I wanted to say sneaky. I won't label him with sneaky, but he has the reputation of being crafty, but in such a way it's defensive. He's one of these people, if I don't stand up for myself, there's no one else that's going to do it for me. Mama will help me, but it's up to me to make my own way. And indeed, this is a situation where Yaakov has to cut Mama's apron strings. Rivka has helped him, assisted him, but in all reality, he is at about 60 years old at this point. And it's well nigh time for him to launch and to be out on his own and to find his own way in this world. Yaakov is needing refinement. He can be seen as being naive and a bit gullible to some degree. For all of his wiliness and supposed craftiness and fast on his feet, street smarts, he's not there yet. He tends to represent then the young man or the individual perhaps that is called, has a calling on their life, has a purpose that has been assigned to them, has an anointing that should be fresh and invigorating, and their giftedness is readily seen, but also the fact that they are green and inexperienced and unrefined. It's like ore, gold or silver ore that has been found but has not been smelted down, and the preciousness of the metal extracted from the debris that is around it. And there's only one way that you can do that. You have to heat it up and put it through the test of fire. Yah's methodology of refinement and fire is not necessarily that which we would pray for and ask that Yah do this for us. In 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12 says, "Beloved ones, do not be surprised at the fiery trial that is coming upon you to try you as though some unusual matter has befallen you. But as you share in Messiah's sufferings, rejoice in order that you might rejoice exultantly at the revelation of his esteem. If you are reproached for the name of Messiah, you are blessed, because the spirit of esteem and of Elohim rests upon you. On their part he is blasphemed, but on your part he is praised." He says something very similar back in chapter 1, and it says in verse 6, "Even though for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by manifold trials, in order that the proving of your belief, much more precious than gold that perishes, and proven by fire, might be found to result in praise and respect and esteem of the revelation of Yeshua Messiah." So twice now, Shimon Kefa, Simon Peter, is giving us an understanding of test by fire. Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, writes about this, I believe, if I can find this very, very quickly, I'll look, see if I can do this. In 2 Corinthians, he teaches about things being brought through the fire, wood, hay, and stubble, those things that he says survive the fire, they remain, and those things that are not, they are being consumed. You no longer have the ability to present them to Messiah. I'm not going to find it here. I won't take time to find that. But if it's gold, silver, precious stones, they will survive the fire. Wood, hay, and stubble, those things that are done in his name, but not necessarily for his name and in his honor. If it's more self-oriented, they're going to perish. Fire has a way of proving the integrity of what is passed through it. We don't want to suffer the loss of all that we have sought to accomplish for Messiah by some foolish actions or inappropriate words or some kind of downfall. There is a purging that is taking place nationally. One might say internationally. Just read headline this morning about the French government collapsing. There is turmoil in many nations and unrest. Here in the United States, we have had an election and a new government being formed and will be installed the third week of January. It's already facing great opposition. Who knows how successful that this new administration is going to be. A lot of promises made. Are there going to be promises kept? The infighting, the outfighting, rioting in the streets, who knows what we may be facing. There's a lot of hope that says, well, things are now into a favorable change, and if the promises made are kept, things are going to be better. And that's true. At least in my opinion, that's true. But at what cost and at what social unrest, what price would that cause? So, pressure. There is positive pressure. Even when pressure seems to be negative, it has a positive effect. Let's remember that. Now, let's go on again further in these cast of characters. Two more to introduce is Leah, the eldest daughter. Her eyes, whether they are, as someone suggested, a different color, uh, more round than almond shaped. Perhaps the almond shaped eyes are more attractive. The more circular, plain eyes, maybe not as much. Was she depressed? Was she a sad sack? Was she downcast most of the time? Is that the reason that her eyes appeared weak? Did she have vision problems? We're not really told beyond what we're said here. But however her appearance was, it was not as favorable as that of her sister. So Leah, though the oldest, she seems to be the least secure and negative. And as we follow her life here, she is always seeking to achieve something that is withheld from her grasp. On the other hand, Rachel is this energetic, younger, very beautiful, very well formed, positive character, bright, cheerful, leading her father's sheep to the well. I can see her kind of just dancing and bouncing along and maybe singing and very positive. And Yaakov is immediately smitten by her. Before he introduces himself, he's already kissed her. So there are these two extreme opposite sisters. They very much, and their personalities come into play here. So Yaakov says, I will serve 7 years. 7 years is a long time. If, as the rabbis say, he's already 60, he's pushing 70 before he gets married. He works 7 years. They don't seem like 7 years to him. Time flies by. What's also happened then is that his relationship with Rachel has deepened, and they have fallen in love one with the other. She's matured. She's grown up a bit, but she is just as attractive and just as beautiful to him. And at the end of 7 years, he's ready to take his wife, and he's given Leah instead. Something I want to point out, it's not necessarily right in line with this teaching today, but something that's always struck me is that one night in the dark tent where he couldn't tell who was with him, and perhaps he had had too much celebratory drink, Yaakov poured out 7 years worth of passion and love and expression of himself to who he thought was Rachel, and it was Leah. That night, she knew and experienced what it was like to be loved 100% by this man, only to have him become enraged at her in the morning when he realized, I've been deceived. Now, this is measure for measure. His father, Yitzhak, was not able to see that he was not Esau, but yet rather Yaakov. And as he deceived his father, so now his uncle has deceived him, and in the same function or methodology, not being able to see. Leah never received that level of love or passion from him again. Now, whether he resented her and intentionally withheld that from her for the rest of her life, or whether he only gave that to Rachel, she knew what it was like to be completely loved by him. Leah knew, but always chased that and knew that it was being withheld from her. You talk about pressure. How do I make this man love me? And the only means that she had available was her fertility in bringing him sons. And for all of her effort in bringing him sons, it never accomplished the task that she desired. Sad, sad story. So 7 years was followed by another 7 years. Yaakov works 7 additional years for Rachel. But these 7 years were different. The first were in anticipation of all that he dreamed of. Now that he has what he's dreamed of, and then Leah in addition to, now he's got to work 7 additional years to pay what he already has. It's the difference between saving up for something that you want to buy and then having money in hand to go and make the purchase and be debt-free and have the object of your desire, as opposed to get it now and pay as you go, and the idea of I'm obligated. I'm not doing this for me. I'm having to pay back to him for what I already have. And I'm trapped. I'm trapped by Lavan. I can't get away from him. So the pressure is on both sides, but it's different pressure. The pressure of preparation, the pressure of growing and learning and being mentored and shaped and groomed for what your calling is offering you is one thing. But being on the other side of whatever that calling is, that positioning, that opportunity, whatever that open door position is for you, when you get there, now it is the pressure of performing up to the expected level. Once you have preached at a high level, sang at a high level, administrated at a high level, organized, whatever your situation and abilities are, once you have functioned at a high level, the expectation is you will always have that level as a bare minimum. And the pressure then is increased to perform above and beyond that. And that's not always the ability that we have. Sometimes we hit the high mark early, and then we struggle to keep up with our own reputation. That's intense pressure. What does one do with that pressure? How do we function in that pressure? Father, have I already climaxed to the highest level ability that I have? Am I going to live in the shadow of my own previous ability? As we get older and the physical abilities decline, sometimes the mental abilities decline, the energy level goes down. Oh, Yah, help us. Not everyone is a Moshe who is as strong and vigorous on the day that he died at 120 as he was in the decades early. Not everyone is Caleb who says, I'm 80, but I'm as strong now as I was when I was 40. Give me my mountain. Not everybody has that ability. Those are rare situations. Most of us are human enough that the pressure gets to us. Unrealized expectations often is where the pressure originates. Expectations of others, but very often from ourselves. I've had to hear myself preach this sermon many times. A simple one-line sermon where I stand in front of my audience looking at the audience in the mirror and look at the one looking back at me and say, give yourself a break. The pressure that we put on ourselves is often undue pressure. We beat up ourselves, we condemn ourselves, we belittle ourselves, we compare ourselves unfavorably to those that we know that are more highly gifted or highly accomplished, or some have some trait and ability about them that we ourselves don't have. Give yourself a break. Yaakov did what he was supposed to do, and oftentimes that was just spending long, lonely hours out in the fields watching somebody else's sheep and paying him for whatever lambs or sheep were taken by predators or were lost in the terrain, that got sick and died. He had to pay him back for it. He said, you changed my wages 10 times. And this was not pay raises. These would have been pay cuts or renegotiated terms that were not to Yaakov's favor. So how many times do we have to take it on the chin? How many times do we have to be taken advantage of? How long do we have to remain in these given situations? The pressure is negative, but it has a positive result. When we owe, we must pay. Yaakov had 7 years where he had to go through this and just take it because he owed the man and he was obligated. So we come then to chapter 31, and let's begin with verse number 1. And this is after Yaakov has approached Laban and said, it's time for me to leave. I paid my 7 years. And Laban said, no, man, don't run off. It's obvious that the Father has blessed me because of you. Your anointing, your calling, your gifting has helped me to grow this congregation. Things are good, man. Why do you want to run off? And they negotiate, at least contractually on paper, what looks like to Laban's favor and to the disfavor of Yaakov, and the separating of the sheep, and how that Yaakov is left with solid colored sheep. And he says, basically, only the streaked and the spotted that result out of these solid colored sheep, that will be my wages. Laban says, man, you got a deal. And so as Yaakov is working here, Yah favors him again through his ingenuity. Craftiness has now become ingenuity. This is key for us. When you're called of Yah, when Yah's hands is upon you, when his favor is toward you, when you're serving him and you're going through the fire, and yet you persevere and you keep going. When you've taken it on the chin and you turn the other cheek also. You walked in humility. You walked in servanthood. What one might call craftiness in your earlier years now has turned into wisdom and ingenuity, and you've learned a few things. And now you know how to walk wisely, not just uprightly. That's important and it's primary and foundational. But after you learn to walk uprightly, we also must learn to walk wisely. Be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And that's what he does here. So his flocks increase, they're strong, they're healthy, and Laban takes notice. this change and turn of events, as do his sons. And so in chapter 31, verse 1 through verse 7 says, "And he, that is Yaakov, heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Yaakov has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he's made all this wealth. And Yaakov would look at the face of Laban and see that it was not toward him as before. Yaakov said to Yahweh said to Yaakov, return to the land of your fathers, to your relatives. I am with you." Thank you, Father. I am with you. I am with you. What we're talking about here is a season of jealousy. Laban and his sons have sat back for 14 years now, and they have reaped wealth and great benefit from somebody else's labor. And the one time that the one that they have been taken advantage of and taken for granted actually gets ahead and achieves something. Isn't it pretty carnal, and isn't it very interesting that suddenly they're jealous? You've been riding my back and riding the wave of what success I brought you for 14 years. I have a momentary success and you're jealous. Really? Is that the way it's going to be? So we continue, and Yah says, I'm with you, sir. I got you in this. Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face. It is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that I serve your father with all my strength. And yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. And so Yah says, I'm with you. In verse 14, Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. Darling, we're with you. We're with you. Now, Yah will reward them for doing this. But you need to know that you have your family with you. That's vitally important. But we're talking about pressure. There's one thing for pressure to come from spiritual adversaries. As Rav Shaul says, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's one level of pressure. But real pressure comes from people. People will love you and support you. And then there are people that will oppose you and resist you. And you can get pressure from both sides. The ones who love you and encourage you, sometimes they speak what they think is best for you. And it's not necessarily the heart and the desire of Yah. They mean well, and you love them for it. But you can't be prevented from going through the fire. When someone, out of their love and affection for you, tries to spare you the experiences and the challenges that will refine and shape you, it's well-intentioned. It's an act of love on their part, but it's obviously not what's best for us. There are those that intend us harm, and they're just out to get you. They're out to trap you. They're out to make your life miserable, and that's what they think they're doing. And Yah will take those things and turn it around and make it for your good. When Yah is with you, when Yah is for you, No matter what the position of the people may be that are around you, Yah's with you. And it's not that he's not with them and can't deal with them, but you can't deal with people for Yah or in his place. You have to deal with you. I have to deal with me. The pressure. Think about this. A diamond is an extraordinary gemstone. Hard, enduring, beautiful, radiant, exquisite. And if it's cut correctly, it's an heirloom that is passed on to many generations. It's enduring. But diamonds are not just found like gravel in the parking lot. They are the result of carbon that has been buried somewhere between 100 and 150 miles deep into the earth, buried in the earth's mantle. They have been exposed, this carbon has been exposed to heat at 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. It has received 750,000 pounds of pressure per square inch for an extended period of time, to where the carbon is transformed into this gem. And then there is a volcanic eruption that throws this material, this diamond stuff, to the surface, where it is cooled quickly enough to prevent it from becoming graphite. Someone will then extract that diamond out of whatever layer of covering that it is trapped in. And a skilled craftsman will cut away the debris and shape the diamond into a place of usefulness. It's an amazing journey. That being all understood, someone said many years ago, and perhaps this is a more common saying than what I'm aware of, and it was a preacher who said, "I am a diamond in the rough, but I am a diamond sure enough, because I'm made out of diamond stuff." Diamonds are not found on the ground already cut, faceted, shaped, and ready to be placed in jewelry. It takes skill to get them from their found result into a finished product. Are we willing to be cut? Are we willing to be extracted? Are we willing to be shaped? Are we willing to be refined? You are indeed a diamond, but you may be currently in the rough. That means that while you have potential value and you're not to be easily discarded but held on to, Yah sees the refining process necessary to bring you to a place to where you are at your best. I'm not picking on you today. I'm saying this to all of us. All of us have this necessary process that we have to go through. As I read the story, Yaakov goes in with nothing. He has the staff in his hand and the cloak on his back. Whereas the servant of Abraham showed up with a title deed scroll listing all of the flocks, herds, wealth, and possessions of Abraham that were going to be given to Yitzhak, Rivka went knowing my future is secure. Yitzhak, this man I've never seen, he's stable, he's got a home, it's going to be well. Now, she still had to exercise faith and go in, and her life was not without trial. But there was a great difference between what Yitzhak was offering and Yaakov. His son shows up. He has nothing to offer other than his willingness to work. He ends up with 4 wives, and 11 sons and a daughter at this point, 12 children, another one to be born on the way out. He has a load of responsibility. And he has nothing until Yah enables him to use ingenuity to bring about a means of wealth to supply the need of his family. 14 years of refinement. We go into a trial, into a season of testing and purging and shaping and polishing, and we're crying out, "Oh, Yah, help me to survive. Oh, Yah, I rebuke the devil." And it's not the devil that is doing whatever is being done. It is the hand of Yah holding you up to his inspection, seeing the diamond potential in you and chipping away and shaping and faceting, and then placing you within the grasp of whatever the holding is for you to be radiant and light giving and beauty giving to those who see you. It could be an ongoing process. We do have seasons of reprieve. And when we have those seasons of reprieve, we're saying, "Oh, thank you, Father, that it's all over. Now I can enjoy life." Enjoy life. But also know that the times and the seasons of testing are not done until we are beyond this physical plane world and we have entered into his kingdom. There are more pressures to be applied. It could be social pressures, financial pressures personally. It could be a long list of opportunities that Yah will allow to take place in our lives, not because he loathes us or is chastening us or is trying to destroy us, but because he loves us enough to continue shaping us toward our destiny. Let's look at a few scriptures. In the book of John, chapter 16, Yeshua says this, the last verse in this chapter. "These words I have spoken to you, that in me you might have peace." That would be shalom, wholeness and completeness. Everything in its place and nothing is missing or broken. In the world, you have pressure. The world has its mechanisms of putting pressure upon you. But take courage. I have overcome the world. Whatever is the mechanism of worldly pressure being placed upon you, Yeshua has already mastered it and overcome it. So how do we overcome it? Remain in Messiah. Remain in Yeshua. Remain in the one who has overcome whatever it is that is oppressing you. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter number 4, and some of you probably already thought about this particular passage. Verse 7 and following says, "And we have this treasure, that is of the revelation of Yeshua, in earthen vessels, clay pots," some might say crack pots, "so that the excellence of the power might be of Elohim and not of us. Being hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Being perplexed, but not in despair. Being persecuted, but not forsaken. Being thrown down, but not destroyed." He says, always bearing in the body the dying of the Messiah. In other words, we're dying to ourselves that Messiah may live in us. The pressure of the revelation of Messiah. I'm someone that every morning I get up and I extract lemon juice, and I drink lemon juice water on an empty stomach every morning, trying for the health benefits of such. But it has to be squeezed, it has to be pressed, it has to be, and sometimes I put it in a blender and just blend the whole thing, skin, seeds, and all. The pressure, the application of the process to extract what is necessary. It is the pressure on the humanity of ourselves that allows the beauty of Yeshua's spirituality to be extracted from us, to where we say things that we don't have knowledge of to say, that we have gifts and calling and ability to lay hands on the sick and see them recover, to be able to have compassion on those that we know are not worthy of compassion, to forgive those who have done the unforgivable, to give to those that we don't have money to give to. But it is the power and the love and the person of Yeshua within us that finds expression. It is the light of Messiah that is no longer able to be hidden, but must be made manifest. And then in Ephesians chapter number 4, let's talk about not only the pressure of the world and the pressure of Messiah in us, but the pressure of his word. It says in verse 11 and following, and he himself, Yeshua, gave some as emissaries and some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set apart ones, to the work of the service of building up the body of Messiah, until we all come to the unity of belief and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah, so that we should no longer be children, tossed and borne about by every wind of teaching, by the trickery of men and cleverness, under the craftiness of leading astray. But maintaining the truth in love, we grow up in all respects unto him who is the head, Messiah. The pressure of the word is to force feed us into a place of growing up. Let's be honest, if life were too easy and too convenient and comfortable, we would never mature. We would become selfish and smug, and we would be arrogant, and we would be expecting of others without offering from ourselves. When we are spoiled, we're not mature. We want everything handed to us, and Yah says no. He loves us enough to at times say to us, no, work for it. You want me to give it to you, you want me to hand it to you, and I'm saying to you, no, work for it. Work 14 years for what you have. Endure cold nights. Work for someone else and watch them grow blessed and prosperous while you are not. But hang in there and be faithful and work for them with all your might. And yes, it would seem that they are taking advantage of you and taking you for granted, but I have a desired end result for you that will make them jealous. The pressure of the word is to challenge us to a place of growing up. Rosh lamented. He said, you ought to be teachers yourself by this time, but you're still needing the infantile milk of the word. You're still stuck on the minors. I can't teach you majors because you're not ready for them. If we're not allowing the word to do more than entertain us, if we're looking only for preachers and pastors that excite us with the word and want to make us holler hallelujah, amen, but never challenge us in the word or correct or even reprove us from the word, then we're immature. The word was never given to us to only entertain. It was given to us to extract the diamond out of the debris. All of us are born with our inherited debris, our environmental debris, our experiential debris, and out of all of that, Yah desires to extract the gems, the gold, the silver that we are. And it requires a heating up process, a chiseling process, a cutting process, a long-term patient process. My encouragement to you is stay in this for the long haul. Don't allow momentary successes or even long-term challenges to deter you from what it is that Yah has for you. Yaakov ends up all right. His trials are not over. He's in for a lot more pain and a lot more hardship. But the end result of the man is he is Israel. He becomes Israel. He becomes a fulfillment of covenant promise. And great will be his place in the kingdom. You can be assured of that. He has been scarred. He will have a limp. He will be mourning. He will think the loss of his favored son. He will bury his wife along the roadside. He will be betrayed by his own children. His journey's not over yet, and neither is ours. So if you have a season of reprieve and a season to catch your breath, rejoice in it, but gear up and get ready and stay in his presence, because there's pressure in his presence. It's full of joy. It's revelational. It's exciting. It is energizing. But the pressure of that presence is to be able to maintain that presence and stay in that presence. And may Yah grant us all that ability. I pray that something said today will be of encouragement and help to you. May the favor of Yah rest upon you. May he bring upon you all that he has in store for you, to refine you and produce in you high quality, high class, super value. May he bring you to such a place where you are sons and daughters of renown in his kingdom. Ivarekaka va'ishmareka. Yair Yahweh panavileka vikuneka. Isa Yahweh panavileka v'yasimleka shalom. V'yasimleka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, that he may grant to you wholeness, completeness, everything in its proper place. Nothing is missing. Nothing is broken. His shalom. Shema Israel. Yahweh Eloheinu. Yahweh Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malkuto Le'olam Vayed. Until next week, Shabbat Shalom. May the favor of Yah be with you. We hope to see you then.